Now, over the past 25 years, the number of workers living in extreme poverty has declined dramatically despite the long-lasting impact of the economic crisis of 2008-2009. In developing countries, the middle class now make up more than 34% of total employment, a number that has almost tripled between 1991 and 2015. However, as the global economy continues to recover, we're seeing slower growth, widening inequalities, and employment that is not expanding fast enough to keep up with the growing labor force. Sustainable Development Goals aims to encourage sustained economic growth by achieving higher levels of productivity through technological innovation. Now, this morning we have joining us in the studio Executive Director, Dean Initiative, Shemie Michael, and he runs SDGs Community Center in Abuja. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
So now, looking at the SDGs and all these years, what could you say regarding the attainment of the lofty goals that the world set for itself, especially around equality and all that?
Yeah, just like the introduction, the world has seen so much, especially the developing countries. The challenge, obvious, and the resilience of the people also to live up to these challenges. The gap also obvious when it comes to leadership deficit. The ambition of the world to through the 17 pillars for global development, which is the SDGs, to harness how we can collectively look at actions to build the world together to what we want. If we go back to how the SDGs were created, far away from how the MDGs were, it was a collective decisions globally. And I remember clearly that Nigeria had one of the highest votes in terms of participation in creating the SDGs. It reflects what we now say, leave no one behind. That is, this whole idea was co-created by all of us together to reflect what we want in terms of collective action to create the world we want to see. Unfortunately, why the worlds or the part of the world that need less of this have even been doing more in advancing the collective actions. The part of the world that need more of it, which is, so to say, Africa, has not done much as it regards. So for us on the field, it pains us because much is devoted in terms of economic resources. Our annual budget, taken for instance education, where we used to have maybe 8 million children out of school, then 10 million, then 13 million, and suddenly the figure triggers to what they now call the 20 million out of school children. So what happens to all the budget we make annually? What happens to all the development partners intervention annually? So there are key questions to ask. But the truth is, as we are today, we're far from reality.
Okay. So earlier you actually talked about, Africa not, meeting these goals, not doing so well. What about Nigeria? How many of these goals has Nigeria actually met?
So on the global dashboard, okay.
And also, do you think we'll be able to meet all these 17 goals before 2030?
Yeah, so not being the pessimist, because we are working on the field and it's not nice to discredit your labor. But on the global dashboard of the SDGs, Nigeria is sitting very far behind. I think at the last check, out of the 169 countries that are currently on check, I think we are on 153 thereabouts. just leaving behind some of the poorest of the poor.
That was quite a very bad performance.
That was even maybe that we jumped some figure forward at the end of the day. Otherwise, we were about 160 something out of the 169. And the only place we have a green dot, the green dot signifies that we are possibly moving, is on climate action. Not because our government is actually doing so well in that regard, but because, I think there is a significant rate of we not being terribly affected the way other parts of the world is being affected. And so that has provided us a little coverage, kind of a shield. And a lot of actions by young people across the country. Nigeria happens to be one of the blessed, youth demographic that are interested in governance, not in political, governance structure, but in self, involvement when it comes to delivering leadership. So in our civic space in Nigeria, you see a lot of young people who even use their personal resources to do a lot of, development commitment. So that also has added. And plus, our voice has been really loud. And I might give that, we are not always friends with government, but I must give kudos to Nigeria in regards of civic space. In Africa, when we travel and meet some of our colleagues in the other part of Africa, the question they always ask is, wow, how you guys doing this in Nigeria? The kind of having a lot of freedom of expression. I say it doesn't come without a cost. Okay, we know what we have paid, and but sincerely, on the dashboard, we're not doing well.
Okay. Now you mentioned that we are doing well in, Nigeria seems to be doing well in climate action. And, COP27 is going on in Egypt. And one of the key issues that people are talking about is even climate justice. Like, why should Africa, one of the presidential candidates made the point, of course, some people tried to say it was not really good, but then some actually tried to say, well, what you were saying actually makes sense. Like, why should Africa be bearing the brunt for what it is not, like, the cause, the countries, the developed countries that are the big emitters, as they are called, what are they doing? So what's,
the unfortunate thing about that was, as much as his case was logical, when you look at the development of the world and how technology has shaped the world, you might blame the West for putting this pressure on all of us together. But the question is also, when you leave the problem and make it look as if it is somebody fought beside your house and they start breaking bottles, that eventually your own children who do not fight, but simply by passing through that place, start getting affected. The problem no longer belongs to the people, because you also are already being affected. And the case is, in Nigeria, we've suffered a lot when it comes to climate.
But what we're saying is, are the big emitters doing what they should be doing?
The guys are trying. Let's not pretend. And I really wish these people also come out and tell us the truth, especially these politicians, because they travel and they see what the Western world are doing. I think I was telling some of my friends, I drove a car in Germany, for instance, when they talk about, what these people, because they realize they caused the problem. And they also are fast in pace to ensure that they are trying to reverse some of the actions they've taken. So you drive some cars, when you get, some cars no longer run on fuel, on fuel. Some cars run on water now. Some cars, as in, I was driving a car, and the moment you get to maybe a stop junction, your engine goes off automatically. You don't kick the car. again, when you want to start, you just press your accelerator and the car picks again. Just to ensure that whatever it is that the car was running on, the moment your car is stationed and not working, technology is, they're also using technology a lot to, reverse some of the actions that they have taken. The question is, even though we are not the cause of this, somehow, in some of the aspects when it comes to technology, because it's not every aspect of climate issue that has to do with technology. What actions are we taking?
Okay, now let's go back to poverty now. The NHRC said the food crisis has worsened hunger in Nigeria, and it says 4 in 10 Nigerians live below $2 per day. Now, with this particular report, do you think key goals should be highlighted, and made a priority, especially poverty, or do you think priority should be given to, every development goal?
So now, we've also looked at that the 17 goals, as much as they are lofty and good, countries should prioritize. Yeah, it's not all the goals that are of priority to every nation, even though every of the goals are collectively designed. There are some that are more prominent in Nigeria, and then when you go to other countries, there are some that are. So if we leave Goal 1, for instance, or Goal 4, which is education, gender equality, and start focusing on maybe life in the water or life which is not, we will be misplacing our priority. So when we have supposed national emergencies around poverty, even though the government do not declare a state of emergency on them, but we know we are facing them, they should become our priority. Okay. And when we are looking at, the UN in September launched a new education ambition to holistically look at how we're managing our development. The poverty index we're releasing day in and day out, people keep crying. There's no job in the there's high level of unemployment. Then I ask the question, is it that there were jobs, or there are jobs that job owners refuse to give to people, or there are not even jobs, that we have more people than the available jobs? Whose responsibility it is to create these jobs? A lot of people have said government needs to create more jobs. But I said, in everywhere in the world, jobs are not created by government. All that we're asking government to do is creating enabling, environment. But I'm also very scared to say that if we're going to speak to reality, we're not doing anything that suggests that we're trying to address the poverty problem. We're playing too much politics with everything, at the expense of the people who even do the vote. The people are only useful for voting. Their lives are not as important to the people who eventually emerge as winner of these elections when it comes to, programmatic solutions and actions that solve the problem. So I think our development designers should look holistically to the things that affect us more. And I will take education.
Okay. All right. Sadly, time isn't on our side, but thank you so much, Shemi and Michael,